So this is the opening of the Norton Conservation Commission meeting for Monday, October 6th at 6:30 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting that is being conducted both in Town Hall and on Zoom. The members participating tonight thus far are myself, Julian Cate as chair, Dan Pearson, who is, I guess, the clerk.
Yes, yes.
Lisa just came in.
Oh, Lisa just joined, okay. We also have Mark Fernandez, Lisa Carrozza, who is vice chair, and Courtney Miller. And we have our director, John Hollis, and our assistant, Megan Hart, as well. So first item on the agenda is meeting minutes of 9/22. Fairly voluminous, but non-controversial. Anyone have any comments about those minutes? And if there are no comments, I think we can consider a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mark. Did I hear a second?
Courtney.
And a second from Courtney. A roll call vote. Dan and Courtney, how do you vote? Oh, Dan seems to be frozen for the moment. Mark,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye. I don't know, we may have to get Dan's vote
We're going to have to.
in a moment. And Lisa, we're going to record you as an abstention, is that fair?
Stay, yes.
All right, so we'll, as soon as Dan can get unlocked, it reminds me of the Star Wars movie, get out of that material, but, whatever. So our next item is violations. And I guess number one is 93 King Philip Road.
So I'll speak on that?
Please,
Or I'll actually,
just introduce yourself.
Sure.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm Michael Cahill, I'm the PE for Zach Reed and Brian. And we met out at the site with Brad Holmes, our wetlands consultant of ERC, and with John last Tuesday. And we went into some detail about the deliverables for this meeting that would get us through the fall, winter with some stabilization at the site until we could begin the restoration in the spring. I'm going to have Jenna Boyven, my environmental scientist, do the presentation, but I'll just preface it with we really only have 2 loose threads at this point. We're still working on the survey that ERC will overlay the restoration plan onto, and then it's within a week or 2, I'll convey to John the notice of intent date. So those are the 2 things that are still kind of outstanding, but in process. So I'll turn it over to Jenna at this point, and she'll run down our plan that we agreed on 2 weeks ago that we would have for this time.
So let's briefly go over the restoration and mitigation plan. So we'll just run through the, next slide please. Through the wet sketch, order of actions this fall, order of actions in the spring, as well as the NOI proposal and the timeline. So just as a note, we're still, as of the date of the submittal to Mr. Thomas for review by commission, we're still expecting the land map.
Yes, correct, yeah. But that note up there indicated that we were waiting on the memo, which we did receive actually late Friday afternoon,
Yes.
so we got it over to John this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll give a little detail on that in here. It's our restoration plan was updated today, so it was,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
just tight timeframes.
Yeah. So just to go over the property, from A1 to A4, and from B1 to B3, that's BBW. And then from IB1 to IB4, that is the ordinary high water inland bank area. The next slide. So the order of actions for the fall, so within areas A1 through A4 and B1 through B3, there will be straw wattle placements, and that will provide short-term stabilization, including erosion and sedimentation control throughout the winter time. Next slide, please. And then for the upland area, also starting in the fall, there will be winter rye planting, which will also provide short-term stabilization, including sedimentation control throughout the winter time. Next slide, please. So then starting in the spring, after everything is buttoned up throughout the fall and winter time, in the BVW areas, we will then begin native vegetative species planting. And the effects of this will be long-term stabilization, including erosion prevention and sedimentation prevention, and that will be checked up upon within the future. And the plant list will be chosen from the freshwater buffer plant list via UMass Amherst Landscape Nursery and Urban Forestry Program resource, so that has yet to be decided. And then in the upland area, that in the springtime, that's when loam and compost spreading will be implemented, as well as the planting of, it's called Natural Perfection seed mixture, which includes Marco Polo sheep fescue, Reliant Ivy hard fescue, Viking H2O hard fescue, as well as Azure sheep fescue, which all have very high germination rates and which are very, very hardy grasses that should provide stabilization fairly quickly. Next slide, please. So then within the notice of intent, the first project would be the revetment removal, which will then turn into the seeded coir log implementation, as well as patio removal, which pervious pavers will then be implemented. So the projected start time for this would also be the springtime. So short-term impact, there will be some bank destabilization, but there will be many mitigation methods that can be accompanied within this to prevent erosion and sedimentation into the pond. So long-term impact of this will not just be aesthetic value for the property, but also bank stabilization, increased diverse native vegetation, increased soil structure, and increased buffer zone. Next slide, please. So this is the draft restoration sketch that Brad Holmes provided with us. So as you can see with everything that I just described, you can kind of visualize it a little bit more. So where we would be removing the concrete and replacing with the coir logs, in the other area with the native planting strips, as well as replacing the patio, and also the area where we will be loaming and seeding in the spring. Next slide, please. So here's a timeline of everything, just so we can kind of grasp our heads around it. So in the fall, that's when stabilization will take place for the fall and winter time, as well as the survey and revegetation plan, which we just presented. And the fall is also when we would like to submit our NOI proposal. Then in the winter, we hope that's when we would receive the NOI decision. And then in the spring, that's when revegetation would take place, and as well as the retaining wall removal and patio removal upon the NOI. And then in the following years, just the site progress and checking in with you guys. Next slide. Any questions?
John, you have any comments?
No, I had a very, good conversation with the applicant and their consultants when I was out there. This kind of covers everything that I think the commission and I brought up at the meeting that we had. Obviously the intent here is to overly,
This is Adam, he's IT for the town garden.
I guess, improve the existing conditions and try to more naturalize what was out there. So I think if the applicant pursues this as the Restoration Avenue, I think then, for instance, we could potentially allow for some of these activities to occur, but then also they'd have to submit an application for notice of intent application to do the work to the revetment wall. I think their intent is to remove it. So, you know, obviously that's gonna require a little bit more of a permit side of things, but the restoration efforts, I think, are definitely gonna be an overall improvement to the existing conditions of how it is right now. But they are going to stabilize the area, which is definitely something that we talked and discussed with the commission, so that is something they're looking to do in the interim while we wait for any sort of planting in the spring.
All right. Any questions from members of the commission?
Oh, yeah, I have a question. Can you just back up a slide for a second? Thank you. So are you waiting to prepare a plan for landscape contractor for fall 25 and file notice of intent, or are you just going to proceed with those stabilization measures?
Well, Lisa, we just received a memo, a detailed memo from Brad Holmes of ECR, sorry, of ECR late Friday, and it's 3 or 4 pages. That's got the plan in it, so we have that plan. It was just too voluminous to include in this and show up on the screen as something in addition to read, you know, something else to read. It would have taken a few minutes to read through it. If you'd like, if it's okay,
Yeah.
could, I sent it to John this morning, early this morning. We could share that with you.
Well, I just don't want the filing of a notice of intent to hold up this work,
Yeah, understood.
right? So, because you're gonna miss the window for planting. So for instance, does the plan show winter rye application rate? Does it show straw wattle? By the way, it's W-A-T-T-L-E, it's a wattle. Does it show a size for the wattle? Because I'm just wondering if you just should be implementing those sooner rather than later, instead of waiting for a notice of intent.
No, that's a good point. Arvin, I think we talked about John.
So, yeah, so what Brad told me was that he was gonna do a double row of compost sock as the wattle that you're
Yep.
talking about. And that the rate of he didn't give a rate, but he did say that the entire area which has been disturbed, that he doesn't anticipate, like for instance, I guess the westerly side of the area, if we go back to that, I guess, diagram, Megan, you wanna just pull? So that whole kind of curve area there,
Yeah.
that whole area is gonna be laden with the rye.
Yeah.
The area that is the loam and seed to the south, that actually is gonna be restored because they don't intend to do any work in that area for their notice of intent application. So, you know, I told them that, you know, it seems silly to have to restore the area on the westerly side, you know, because we know that you guys are potentially gonna come in with a notice of intent to rip out that revetment wall and put in core logs. You know, you'd just be basically duplicating your efforts, so why not put something in that's gonna just hold that embankment and soil in place through the winter until you come back in the spring and revegetate the area.
Right, I guess the disconnect for me is having to wait for us to issue an order of conditions to restore something that could be done immediately. And should be done immediately.
So you're saying
In
that,
terms,
so you're saying the disconnect is the fact that you feel that they should, I guess, restore the whole entire area?
restore whatever could create any sediment-laden runoff that is not stabilized today. So
Right.
it sounds like the native planting strip. So I'm just saying without a notice of intent, John, because it's restoration, right, of a violation. So
Right,
if they miss the
well,
window, yeah, so if they miss the window in October, the seed's not gonna take. So I'm just saying, is there any reason why they just can't go and put the core logs in, or the straw wattles in, and put the rye down?
yeah, I think that's the intent that they positioned with this as part of the project, is that they're gonna do the loam and seed near the native planting strip to the south. That's gonna be all taken care of with the native, or buffer enhancement seed that I suggested to them. But then the winter rye section to the, I guess it would be the northwest, that kind of curve area, they're gonna do that winter rye, but they're also gonna put these sediment controls around establish the work area as part of this project. So I guess that's kind of what I told them would be better, because for instance, if they come in the spring and they get a notice of intent, they're just gonna be ripping up that area to do the work again.
But how long is it gonna take, all right, here's my concern. How long is it gonna take them to get a notice of intent in? Because if they miss the next couple of weeks, it's gonna be too late. So my suggestion is to go in, put the rye down, put the straw wattles in now to prevent that from moving along.
Yeah, I think that's what they're gonna do.
Okay,
They
without
don't-
waiting for the notice of intent.
No, they don't need a notice of intent. This is without a permit.
So,
Okay.
Lisa,
Okay.
as I understand it, you're concerned about stabilization, as I think all of us are, and I agree. Getting the sediment control and the seed down now is the thing to do without a permit.
Yes.
Right, okay, okay. I'm sorry, I thought you were waiting for them to file the notice, for them to be allowed to put the seed in the wattle down. That's all.
No, the only thing we're waiting on is for when they decide they want to remove the revetment wall. That's
Okay.
the trigger is that, and also the pavement removal.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions among commission members? If not, any questions from anybody in the meeting? And you can do that by just taking your mic off mute and identifying yourself, or here in the meeting, raising your hand. And if not, I think we've heard the plan. And we can have you guys go forward.
Thank you.
In agreement?
Yes, I think, obviously, Mike, I think the next steps are for you to let me know when you guys plan on coming in with that notice of intent.
Yep.
But in the interim, our next meeting is gonna be November 10th.
Yep.
I'd like to see a lot of progress made out there.
Okay.
And I want basically to be able to assure the commission by the next meeting that the sediment controls are in
Okay.
and all the seed is down for
Okay.
the areas that we just discussed.
Very good.
I see that Dan is back in the meeting, so I don't know if you're on mute, Dan. So just want to poll you with regard to your vote on the minutes. Is that okay? So Dan can be recorded as an aye for the minutes.
Aye.
All right, so next item is 181 West Main Street, also a violation. Do we have a representative, or what's the plan of that?
I think there's a representative on the call. Yeah.
Thank you.
I see John. John, can you hear us?
Yes, my name is John Kelty, and I'm representing Atish Kumar Patel, who's the party who has been given notice, and that notice, by the way, was back in August, and since then we've been attempting to engage an engineer. We are keenly aware of the violation. The violation is building a small patio within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. We are potentially violating, we are on notice of a violation of the Rivers Act. And John, I did send a letter asking that this matter be continued, but at the same time was able to have some correspondence and discussion with John Thomas. And John pointed out that John? Pardon?
No, I think that was just noise in the system. Go ahead with your presentation.
So it was pointed out to us that we are in a position where we could be hit with daily fines. And my hope is that we not be given an enforcement order this evening. We do expect that we're going to have to replace our septic system. That will require filing along with our filing of the location of the patio and whatever mitigation we're going to propose. I do believe that if we do need to replace our septic system, which will not meet Title V testing or requirements, the unit was located there in something like 1976. I believe that if a new septic system needs to be provided and constructed, it'll be in the front of the building. We'll need to pump our effluent to the front of the building, whereas now it goes in the back. The existing area would need to be removed. So we would have a pretty significant filing with the conservation, which I would hope would cover both the new septic system and would also account for what has occurred out there at present, which is the addition of the patio. So I'm hopeful that you'll continue this matter to your next meeting on November 10th, which I would hope to have engaged our engineers and have a plan such as was presented to you just before this matter. I do know that they're responding under an order, under an enforcement order, and as such, we're under a notice of violation. So we would actually be looking for a filing a notice of intent and looking for an order of conditions.
We are aware of all that. The question is, we want to see some progress. Yes, you have a project, but when are you going to engage an engineer is kind of the question really in front of my mind. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Have you been talking with
It's been going on since August, you're correct.
Have you been talking with engineers? Because
yes, we have. We have
okay.
2 proposals. I believe within the next 2 days we will select one, and we will move forward.
all right. Well, I think
I don't believe there's any damage taking place.
all right.
The activities that have occurred, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, but at this phase, we know work has to be done, but the way forward is to get the engineer to define the nature of the work and then present it to us in a filing. And so, all that other discussion is really irrelevant until you have an engineer that can put together a comprehensive plan, and then we can assess it as to whether it meets the requirements of the Wetland Protection Act and the Rivers Act. So it's,
Today being Monday, we will engage before week's end.
okay. John, you have any comment?
No, I just, informed the applicant that it's been a while and, the commission gets tired of these things when they don't see progress. So, the commission is at their discretion to issue an enforcement order if they find it, reasonable.
I mean, I'm understanding difficulties out there, but you gotta really make an effort.
I understand, sir.
And I presume you have made an effort, but I mean, I would
We've got to
certainly,
follow through.
I would certainly be tolerant and say, fine, let's hopefully be looking at the skeleton at least of a filing with a plan on November 10. But if you don't, I think I would agree with John, my patience is, would get kind of thin at that point.
I appreciate that, and as I said, we will engage before week's end and have material for you at your next meeting.
Any questions from commission members? All right, you have heard our preference, and we'll look forward to some information, I shouldn't say on paper, but on the screen that we
Thank
can
you.
evaluate. And this is not really a public hearing, so I don't have an obligation to open it up to the
Nope.
whole meeting? Okay.
You do not.
All right, fair enough. So we will see you on November 10th. Thank you. We have voted in the past on a continuation of file number 250-1180, 61 West Main Street, which is the Honeydew Donuts site, I believe.
That's correct.
And they previously have been continued until November 10th, so we don't have to act on that. And then we have next listed an Eagle Scout project for the Leo Yell Conservation Area. Do we have a presenter or,
Yes, yeah, my name's Sam Rosetta.
okay?
I'm a lifelong resident of Norton, and I've been a Troop 12 Scout since 2014. I'm doing my Eagle Scout project, and what I chose to do is blaze and repair the bridges up in the Leo G. Yell Conservation Area off of Freeman Street.
Okay.
I've been managing my project since about the end of August, and I've been trimming the trails, cutting fallen trees that have fallen in the past, and measuring wood that needs to be replaced on the bridges. Right now I'm in the process of getting the last piece of wood I need from National Lumber. I've been donated wood from Home Depot, most of it, but I need one more support beam. And I've also reached out for volunteers from my fellow troop members, family, and friends over the past few weeks. I just finished disassembling the first bridge that I need to. I'm doing 2 bridges. I just
Okay.
finished disassembling the first bridge, and there's caution tape around it, and there's space to walk around it right now. But over the next couple weeks, I need volunteers to help out with the project before snow falls. I need volunteers in order to finish blazing the trail by adding trail markers and finish clearing the trail. I'm also trying to get an updated sign from Ginny Wiseman, who is a neighbor of mine, who said she has an updated sign for the trail. I also need volunteers that are able to help with pull up the damaged wood pieces from the bridges and nail in the new pieces, preferably people that are that know about like bridges and stuff. I will have the wood out by the bridges when we are out there, and I'm going to be out there this Sunday, October 12th, from 1 to 4 p.m. and also Monday morning at 10 a.m. And then I will continue that August 19th, also on a Sunday, and Sunday, August 26th.
I think it must mean October.
Oh, you mean October, Sam?
October, sorry.
Yeah.
If anyone would like to reach out to me, you can contact Mr. Thomas and, at the Conservation Department, and my troop leader, Ms. Sparks, via our Facebook page.
So I'm presuming you're also talking to other people in your troop and looking for these resources as well.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I'll have all the wood and all the nails, and I'll also bring food and water out and stuff. I just need a little more manpower because my troop's pretty small. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
Sam, I will do what I can with the resources that I have of volunteers, and I will let them
Yes.
know. You just send me an email when you want some support, and I'll see if anybody's available, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Well, thank you,
Great
Sam.
project. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions about it?
One quick question for me. How many volunteers do you think you need and when? Have you sort of put together from a project management perspective on X date, I need 4, on Y date, I need, 5 other people, and what the order of operations is?
Yeah, so the past couple times I've been out there, I've just been clearing the trail, which I haven't needed that many volunteers because I've already went through it a bunch. So for the next couple weeks, I'll probably need about 6 to 10, I would say, volunteers. Because the first bridge we're doing isn't that big, but the second bridge is long and also higher.
Yeah, that bridge is pretty significant. Has anyone been out there from the commission?
Not recently,
Okay, this whole bridge system is extensive,
and it's getting rickety.
and it's getting rickety. Well, it's been out there for 15 years, and
Yeah,
wood does rot over time, so.
okay.
All right, Sam, well, that's great. Why don't you send me the email list of what you need for certain days, and I will distribute to our Conservation Commission members and also reach out to some other volunteers that I share similar interests with trail maintenance, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll get that out as soon
Thank
as
you.
possible.
All right, thanks,
Good night.
Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
All right, 376 Old Colony Road update. Have we sorted through the availability of adequate?
So I've received a list from the consultant's wetland scientist. They said that they were gonna send over a final list of the actual vegetation they're going to be getting. They said they had to make a few modifications to some of the plant species. They asked me for suggestions. I said, you can duplicate the species, but, from what was initially, proposed to the commission, I said try to keep it as similar as possible that you can. You can make minor adjustments to the vegetation, but I'm still waiting on that list. But they did say that they were out there putting down the seed and basically manicuring the area for winter stabilization. So I think they're processing some of the plants that they can right now, but there's a couple on back order that they're still waiting for, so.
All right, so things are going forward.
Things are moving forward in the positive direction, so I'm hopeful that, for instance, that can get done, and then we can potentially wait the 2-year period for monitoring in that mitigation area, and then, for instance, they can be released of that enforcement order that was done back in the 90s.
Okay. All right, so we're now moving on to our continued public hearings, but we have 3 that have requested continuation, so I think we need to do that first. The first is the 49 Island Road project, file number 250-1186. They have requested a continuation until November 10th.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan, seconded by Lisa. Mark and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Courtney.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries. The next hearing requesting a continuation is file number 250-1188, 65 Hill Street. Something we actually haven't opened yet, but they want to continue until 11/10.
Was that a so moved, Dan? Dan?
I'm sorry?
Aye.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, I will second what.
We got a motion by Dan, seconded by Lisa. Mark and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Well, Dan, you look frozen. Was that a yes, an aye?
Aye.
Okay, there you go. Lisa and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, motion carries. Next item is file number 250-1190, 63 Hill Street, also a new project. We have an open, they're requesting continuation until November 10th.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Dan, seconded by Mark. Dan and Lisa, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Courtney.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, motion carries. So we're now back to our previously continued public hearings. 0 Leonard Street, file number 250-1178. And we have a representative, it looks like here in the room. And so when you start, just identify yourself and go from there.
Thank you. My name is Mark Arndt with Goddard Consulting here on behalf of Priyana Johar for the project at 0 Leonard Street in Norton. I do have a color plan here, although I wasn't sure if you want me to share my screen
Yeah, you
or.
can share your screen.
Okay.
Let me give you sharing.
I'm gonna send a request to share.
You should be all set.
Great. Excellent. So I'm just going to walk the commission back to where we started, just because it's been a while since the commission has been heard this project. So just to backtrack, so this is 0 Leonard Street in Norton. It has several wetland resource areas, so I'm going to walk through the existing conditions and then walk through what's proposed after that. So we have several things. We have the Canoe River in the far back of the property, in the southern portion of the property. That river checks a riverfront area onto the property. There's also bordering land subject to flooding on the property, and there's also wetlands with the 100-foot buffer zone as well. So the property and the discussion is mostly going to be focused on the northwest corner of the property, where there is an upland meadow area that is also within buffer zone and also bordering land subject to flooding. That floodplain is set by FEMA, elevation 73.5, as set by the NAVD datums by FEMA, and the surveyor has prepared an existing conditions plan and proposed plan that reflects those datums to show the current floodplain location on the property. I'm going to go to the second sheet, which shows a zoom in of that northwest corner of the property, and this is that upland meadow here. All work is proposed outside the riverfront area, outside the buffer zone. The only work that is proposed to be within jurisdictional areas is the bordering land subject to flooding, which is elevation 73.5. You can see that on here as this dotted plan, starting where my cursor is in the top right corner and working our way down. You see it as a little zigzag. It runs this direction here, along here, and then runs around this hatched area here and then out here. So that's the existing floodplain elevation. The proposed project is to regrade the floodplain elevation to allow the proposed house to be built outside the floodplain while also providing compensatory storage as required by 310 CMR 1057. We are outside the 10-year floodplain, so there is presumed no impact to wildlife habitat per DEP's wildlife guidance. The project does propose compensatory storage in a 1-foot intervals, which is what's required per the regulations. We have those tables provided on the plans in the top right corner here, where you can see the cuts and the fills that are occurring within the floodplain at each elevation, from elevation 72 to 73 and 73 to 73.5. There's no grading work occurring below elevation 72. We did also submit a revised WPA Form 3 to the Commission, so that way that form is now accurate to what's being proposed, which shows the work in VLSF to be 12,960 square feet, the fill to be 2,267 square feet, and the replacement to be 3,617 cubic feet. So there's a net volume increase of about 1,000 cubic feet of volume in the floodplain from the proposed project. We did propose conservation signs around the property. I'm actually going to jump to a little color plan that I have here with me in person as well, just to show a little bit of a better idea of what's going on. These conservation signs are highlighted in green, basically one, demarcate the buffer zone, also demarcate the backyard and also demarcate the sides of the yard. That way you have a nice kind of demarcated limit of lawn that's basically protecting the BLSF areas on both right and the left, and also protecting the buffer zone from being encroached on in the future. Again, the house is proposed outside the floodplain, so we don't have to, I should say, so that's a separate matter. So, and so we don't have to, we provide compensatory storage for the fill that's occurring. You can see here, this pink line is the original floodplain line. And then as you walk your way back, this blue line is the new floodplain line that's being pulled back. So you can see, generally speaking, there's 1,000 cubic feet of volume. You can see the actual increase in the floodplain area, and the volumes were calculated by myself using DEP methods. So that's a net summary of the work. Again, no work in the buffer zone, riverfront area, only in BLSF. We provide compensatory storage as required at those 1 foot intervals. And we believe this project does comply with the regulatory requirements of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Comments, John?
I have many, but I'm gonna let the commission, I know Lisa probably has a couple comments.
I just, from the yard, it says sediment controls. What are the sediment controls?
The sediment controls are going to be a staked compost biodegradable filter mitt that's 8 inches in diameter.
All right. Other questions from commission members?
So, yeah, I have a few. So, did you say that the house was outside the flood zone?
The house is proposed to be constructed outside the flood zone, yes.
Well,
Okay. That's
the,
not what I'm seeing.
the new established floodplain.
Yes, so the project proposes to alter the floodplain location to allow the house to be built outside the floodplain. That's the project's proposal.
Right, but for the record, you're proposing a portion of a house in an existing 100-year flood zone. What you just said not true.
Correct. If that, in that nuance,
So
yes.
we don't talk future flood zone when you're finished filling, we talk about existing conditions versus the flood zone. So, for the record, a portion of this house looks like it's in the flood zone. That said, so it looks like you're going to allow up to 1 foot of water in this backyard. So, potentially, right, so the flood zone is at 73.5, nothing's making that go away. And you're lowering the elevation, or your spot shot out there is 72.5. So the person's gonna have 1 foot of water in their backyard when the flood hits.
That's possible, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. Because normally what you would do is you would fill so that the backyard is on the flood zone. But then you'd have to provide more compensatory storage. I get it. It's highly unusual to sell a property to somebody knowing that your backyard's gonna have 1 foot plus water in it. That's the first comment I have. Second comment is, how did you determine the extent of the regulatory floodway?
The regulatory floodway is established through the FEMA maps. Usually it's a hatch, and that is very interior to the southern portion of the property. As noted by the maps, you get the Canoe River, the riverfront area barely touches any upland at all, and then you have the wetlands, which is another 100 feet from the river, and then you have the buffer zone. So,
how did you establish the floodway on the property? That's my question.
Yeah,
Did you just draw it on there?
I believe it's from the FEMA maps as shown.
The FEMA maps as shown show it graphically. You need to go into the flood insurance study to figure out what the actual width is. So I would like to see that documented. Next question, you go back to the color plan. What's the backyard that you're giving them, that you're putting in back there for that, the foot that's gonna be flooded?
Are you asking about the size of it?
Yes. How much
The
backyard?
size of that is approximately 40 by 80. No, probably wide, probably 100, probably 40 to 50 by 80 to 100.
Okay. So essentially, again, everything's gonna be flooded except the house and the septic. You're gonna have flooding in the compensatory flood zone, the compensatory storage areas, which makes sense. So the house is gonna be almost a moat. The house, the only thing that's gonna be, left without flooding is the septic system in the house. Not a great design.
If you're a king and you want a castle, then yeah, it's a great design, Lisa.
Yeah. So did a PE stamp this plan?
We had a PLS do this plan.
Yeah, in this case, I would ask you for an engineer to have this stamped. I mean, a land surveyor could, but I would like an engineer to stamp this plan.
DEP doesn't require that necessarily a PE provide stamped plans
So
for.
your flood
for
elevation
so-
certificate would potentially need a PE,
Correct,
a registered landscape architect,
correct,
or
Yeah.
a PLS.
correct. And that's for paperwork to FEMA, yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So is that paperwork pending?
So the way this project works, Lisa, is we have to, we get an order of conditions, which we believe we comply with the regulations to allow us to fill the floodplain. What we do is we would fill the floodplain, we'd construct the compensatory storage, and we would do an interim as-built of the floodplain to confirm that the floodplain is where it's proposed and it's accurate. And from there, we can file a map change with FEMA to demonstrate that we're outside the floodplain in where everything is proposed to be, where the house is proposed and where the driveway and septic is proposed. And with that, we can build a house without FEMA flood insurance and that would all be allowed basically once that map change was completed. So there's a little bit of a phase to this, but it's not necessarily something that's unusual with work near the floodplain. We've done this many times.
So my understanding is that typically with these types of projects, you would go for the letter of map revision first to establish the FEMA elevation for the project site. And then once you get that, then you come into proposed development, because then you would have the elevation established.
Well, the elevation's been established. We have to establish the new elevation by actually grading the floodplain to be where it needs to be. So that way the map would reflect where this elevation is shown. That's what has to happen.
I guess, how's that?
FEMA has to have that data that's where the actual topo is.
But then how does that work? I mean, how do they, then you're basically altering the grading and that's how you're coming up with the FEMA elevation? That seems backwards.
No, we're not coming up with the FEMA elevation. The FEMA elevation is set by the FEMA maps. And the FEMA says, this is our elevation. You do on grade, you do on-site topo.
Right.
By a licensed surveyor who connects to the datum and sets that elevation. And then this elevation is not just drawn willy-nilly. It's based on the topo survey that's on the datum that FEMA uses. And so this is the elevation here. And so when you file a flood main chap, you tell FEMA that the floodplain is in this location here.
So
And-
I guess before you go on your whole spiel, my question is, have you talked to Eric Carlson about this?
The building inspector?
No, Eric Carlson from FEMA. Have you talked to him?
I haven't talked to him. I know we talked to the
I
building.
would suggest
yeah.
talking to him because I think he's been in conversations with the building commissioner here in town. And I think he basically gave your client clear direction. Him and Eric Carlson gave them clear direction on how you can achieve, potentially seeing if this lot is buildable or not.
No,
I don't think fabricating an elevation and then plopping a building on top of it is gonna solve it, because I'm not comfortable with advising the commission that this would be a permittable project. I'm telling you right now. I've never seen a project like this done this way. It seems weird.
We spoke to the building inspector about this, and that's what has to actually happen. And so as we actually have.
So
I've worked with FEMA before. I've filed map
I have
changes
email
before.
correspondence from the building administrator and Eric Carlson stating what needs to happen.
Yep.
I would suggest listening to what they have to say, following what they are requesting you to do to seek approval for this project. I know the answer. and this is not what I wanna see. I'm just telling you right now, this is not what I wanna see.
I know it's an approval project through FEMA and through the state, because I've done multiple projects where we have mowed the floodplain and we've built a building outside the floodplain or partially in the floodplain. We built them over the floodplain. We've done quite a few projects, so I'm very used to this actual activity. So I know it may be unique it may be the first time for you, but it is something that we have done quite a bit in the past.
I just find it very odd that you're going to manipulate the grades to get a buildable lot out of it. I mean, why haven't I seen this more often if this is the case, right? For any FEMA project. Why is it that I don't see it in all these other floodplain projects? And how is this, I guess my point would be, how is this even legal to do that? Because you're manipulating the grades to get a buildable lot.
The Wetlands Protection Act allows for the alteration of the floodplain
Right,
in VLSF when you provide compensatory storage. That is what the regulations allow for.
right.
And we do this all the time. We put patios in the floodplain and we fill in with a patio and we have to make a little bit of a cut. We add an addition to the back, we grade it, we cut out the backyard to make more floodplain for the addition. And that is something that we've done this, I mean, I've done dozens of NOIs with work in the floodplain. And the purpose of this plan is to show how we comply with the Wetlands Protection Act and its regulations. So in terms of what, if the commission has something that they're concerned about compliance with FEMA, they can definitely put a condition that the applicant should consult with FEMA to make sure that all permits have been legally required. But in terms of what we're proposing here, we provide the compensatory storage is required to do the grading that's proposed here. And that's what the plan shows. So, and again, I understand it's a unique situation, but we've done it before. And again, we're not necessarily creating, it's a buildable lot. You have an area for septic system. You could build something in a different layout, but with zoning setbacks and everything else, the most appropriate way is to just shape the floodplain as we've shown it to kind of balance everything out. And so it is unique. And again, it's an existing field, which is great. I've done duplexes in the floodplain where we filled the floodplain, all the floodplain, built a building over the floodplain in a wooded lot. And it was very unique.
I guess my question here though is like, if you're putting a foundation in that existing soil, how are you not over excavating that subsurface area? You know, for soil, for foundation support and stability, you're only putting in an extra foot of fill. I mean, who's to say that foundation's gonna be solid and it's not gonna crack or have any sort of issues moving forward? I mean, that seems silly, because you see a lot of these constructions for houses happening, right?
Yeah.
And they go down, how far?
They go down 4 feet for frost.
Right.
So I mean, I have a degree in civil engineering.
Right.
I've done foundation designs. I've worked for 2.5 years for a geostructural consulting company. So I know foundation designs. I know what structural engineers and what PEs do for these kind of things. So they would build. In this situation here, again, they would be grading out the floodplain as shown in the blue line, and then they would be excavating down 4 feet below the finished grade around the foundation itself. So they'd be going from elevation approximately around 74-ish. They'd go down 4 feet down to elevation 70. They'd be taking out soil and removing it from the property and putting in a foundation.
What's the depth to groundwater again?
That's a good question. I do
That
not.
is a good question.
I do not. Let me hold on. If you want, so depth to groundwater is 60 inches to 50 inches in the test pits, which is 50 inches at test pit number 4. Test pit number 4 is over here. So at elevation 73.75 down 50 inches. Sorry, I can't do that quick in my head. That's 4 feet. 4 feet. So yeah. So elevation, it's down 69. Elevation 69. So
we're gonna have an issue with groundwater then for the foundation?
If we're down 4 feet from elevation 74, no.
What's the bottom of the compensatory flood storage area? Is that gonna compete with or encounter groundwater as well? Is the groundwater gonna occupy that column instead of allowing floodplain compensation?
No. Again, so for example, inside on the right side here, where you see my cursor is, test pit number 4 here, groundwater is 4 feet deeper than that grade right now. Over 4 feet, it's 50 inches. So it's below elevation 70 right now. That's seasonal high groundwater itself. So
And what
the
is the bottom of the flood storage compensation gonna be?
In that location, it is going to be 73.25. So we're still 3¼ feet above seasonal high groundwater plus.
So you're
So,
actually,
John Thomas, if I might, I think
please.
the reason this is an anomaly, and I'm, I'm doing this for a long time, is typically they would have come in and filled around the house, right? And brought a lot of fill in, brought everything up, including the backyard. And I think that's what we're seeing, is they're actually lowering it, which is gonna result in this 3/4 of this yard flooding. And that's what I'm extremely uncomfortable with as a commission member. The person that lives in this house is gonna be surrounded by water when it floods,
And
surrounded.
maybe this is a separate question, but if that backyard does flood, where does that water go once it floods?
So great question. So let's just take a step back again and think about how floodplains work. Floodplains, 1-year floodplain is it's a short-term event where water, when the watershed fills up completely, the Canoe River overflows its banks and floods laterally from the river towards the extent of the floodplain, which is pushing up towards this area of the property, and it would fill up to where the floodplain actually is. And what we've done here is we've actually created a very nice uniformed floodplain flow path around this house. It now comes in around nice and uniformly, and then it can leave nicely and uniformly as it comes in. It slowly rises and slowly comes down. We are hundreds of feet from the river here. We're not like adjacent to the bank of the river that can aggressively flood rapidly like you may see in some of the flooding videos you see from down south. So that's what we have here. And so we've provided, and the regulations do require that we provide flood storage capacity that is not restricted by movement towards and away from the river and the flooding and everything else. And that's what we've done here by creating this nice uniform area of kind of making a more shaped island that actually allows for better uniform floodplain than the current floodplain, which includes, if you see on the left side screen here, that little pink, these little pink nubs. That's a very constricted floodplain location, actually. But now it's actually opened up to this whole corner here. So you actually have a lot better flow path actually to this area of the floodplain because of the condensed storage.
Do you sell cars for a living? Dude, you're putting an obstruction in the flood zone, you're saying it's gonna be better. I'm not buying it.
well,
That's all I have to say.
let me just clarify for myself. As I see this plan, you are shaving off about 6 inches in the blue areas, and you're moving that to where the house footprint would be.
Yep.
Is that a fair statement?
That's a good summary. Maybe a little more, a little less, but yes, that's the general scheme, yes.
Well, I mean, the floodplain is 70 and a half, is it?
73.5.
73 and a half. So that's 73 feet 6 inches, yes?
Yes.
All right. You're lowering, let's say, to the left of the house, 73 is a little ways out, so you're cutting that area down to 73?
73, so let me just, if you
Well,
show.
on either side.
Yeah, we're cutting it down to 73 and then 73.5 on the limit. So you can see right here, this is actually the new 73 contour, right, this black line right here.
Yeah.
So this contour that contour that's right here, this dark line is being pulled back to here
Okay.
to provide that balancing that balance that nice even slope floodplain across this and then up to the 73.5.
So, I don't see this as a massive change in contour.
It's very small, actually.
I mean, there are a lot of houses in Norton that get surrounded by water when we have a bad flood. So I'm not saying this is ideal by any means, but I'm not sure that it's really such a remarkable change. I mean, I just don't see it that way.
I honestly have never seen an applicant come in and modify the grades and bring the grades up a foot and then basically say that we're gonna put a house on the area that we're filling. I've never seen it happen.
I agree with you, John, that.
Because if that was the case,
We are now seeing.
why, if that was the case and that was the way that the act was set up to do this, why is everybody else not doing the same thing? I guess that's my question,
So that's a good question. There's some
Right.
lots that are very difficult because, so this lot has area outside the floodplain. That can be unique. There's a lot of lots that are completely in the floodplain. And
Right.
so it's almost impossible to build on that lot because the whole lot's in the floodplain. And you can't provide compensatory storage if you don't have areas that are outside the floodplain. That's one unique thing. And that's one challenge that we've seen. We've had people come in and they're like, if your whole lot is in the floodplain, it's extremely difficult to do that. Again, we have had lots that are new development that we filled the floodplain to actually put the building. We had a house where we actually put half of it on a slab, half of it was on stilts. The garage was on a slab so we could drive in, and then the rest of the house went on stilts because we didn't have enough compensatory storage to have the house in the floodplain, so we actually put it on stilts so the floodplain could go underneath the house. That was in Bill Ricca, and the house has been built. So that was a unique circumstance where we moved the floodplain to get the garage all out of the floodplain and then put a building over the rest of it.
I mean, I've seen projects where applicants build in the floodplain, take all the necessary flood kind of regulations into consideration, do everything from flood vents and everything like that, and, you know, go through the whole 9 yards with the project dimensions and everything, and do the compensatory flood storage as an offset. But I've never seen anybody come in to try to get outside the floodplain and raise the whole entire existing project site outside the floodplain and then say, we're no longer in the floodplain, but we originally were. So it seems like an odd way about going to do this.
It's a better way because it's better to have the structure outside the floodplain than to propose it in the floodplain, hope the flood vents, and everything else. And that's what FEMA doesn't like using the flood vents. They don't want the flood vents. They'd rather see, let's keep everything outside the floodplain that's providing the flood storage as it. So that's kind of where we landed on this project, why we didn't, because we originally had this house in the floodplain, and I mean, it just doesn't make sense to keep it in the floodplain when we can actually bring it out of the floodplain and provide significant compensatory storage. We're benefiting the floodplain here by this project. We're adding 1,000 cubic feet of volume to the floodplain, which means there's reduction of flooding elsewhere because of this project.
Well,
John Thomas, what did I'm gonna defer to the building inspector and FEMA on this one.
Yeah.
So what did they ask for?
They asked the applicant to obtain a letter of map revision.
Yeah.
And that any additional fill will require compensatory flood storage, which we know of, and that, you know, I guess that's really it. I had some email correspondence that I was gonna send over to the commission from them, but I forgot to do so. But I can definitely get some background. I mean, obviously, I think you might have that correspondence as well, which Ed probably has shared with you.
I've filed those requests, and those are filed after we know how we're gonna grade the project out,
Okay.
because we have to show FEMA that it's a letter of map request change. You're requesting to change the floodplain to a different location. You have to have data, you have to have a plan that actually shows that and works. And on top of that, to build the house as we want to prove to FEMA that it's outside the floodplain. And so we want to prove that the floodplain will be moved outside that. Again, it's a separate regulatory chain, but that's our intention.
Can I ask a question?
yeah.
Is there any concern with the compensatory storage over flooding and affecting the roadway?
No, the roadway is well above the floodplain at elevation 75 here, 74.8, and then down
Or
here.
flood overflowing and going off-site?
No, because again, we're adding more volume. So you think about it, we're adding we're taking one dump truck of material and putting it here, and we're taking out 2 dump trucks loads of material here and here, and actually making more land. So we're actually, we're creating, we're taking the hillside and pulling it back to add more lowlands. That's what's happening here and in here.
So I guess to paraphrase this, and this is just to me to basically simplify it, is that for this project, the intent is to create a buildable pad that you could potentially put a house on outside the floodplain, but also provide compensatory flood storage as part of the project to mitigate for the fill that you're putting in that area. Does that seem like a good
In a nutshell, yes,
summary?
that's exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
And again, that's what the regulations talk about in 1057 for BLSF.
And John, I think the fact that you haven't seen this kind of thing commonly means that Norton is approaching build-out.
Yeah.
And we're seeing non-ideal spots being used for putting a house on.
You mean the outside the box kind of thinking like this? Yes.
Well, outside the box, into the floodplain, into the swamp.
Into the swamp, yes.
You know, in the old days, a lot of houses were built that way.
And DEP did issue a file number for this project, and
Yeah.
there was alteration and proposed replacement.
Did
Cut cells.
you send the revisions to DEP with this design?
No, we didn't.
Okay, you're gonna have to do that.
We don't have to, but I can.
Yeah.
But
You don't-
again,
you don't
I think
have
that
to,
we-
but you
yeah,
should.
No, I think, I'm fine with sending them, because I have no problem with this project being
You
approved by
should
DEP.
send it to
I'm
them.
very comfortable with it,
Any
so.
changes or modifications, that should go to them, especially plans. That way they have the most recent information. If for instance, we would deny this project or approve it, and they would appeal any decision that we made. They'd have to have the necessary information.
All right, so any more questions from the commission members? And anyone in the meeting have questions about this project?
I have a question.
Yeah, just identify yourself, please.
Yeah, I live in 76 Elm Street. I live in Norton, and I'm an architect. Yeah, and I come here to, to participate what's going on about, the project, so to learn something.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is, do we need to purchase the new soil, or is any regulation for the purchase soil to fill in? You want to raise up the buildable area for 1 foot, right?
Yeah.
Where is the soil coming from?
I mean, they may use some of the soil from the actual cut and fill, so most likely in this situation here, they would regrade and make the compensatory storage areas first, and take that material and likely use it to actually create the area around the house. That's probably what they would do structurally. Underneath the house itself, they would use structural fill, which would be taken from likely a gravel pit somewhere and trucked in. So that's usually, it depends on the nature of the soils. I'm not fully familiar with the soils, but they're called out to be loamy sand with 15% to 5% gravel. So not the greatest structural material, but definitely workable for around the perimeter. So that's what they would do for the soils there. So.
But what you're saying is that there's going to be net removal of soil from that site?
From within the floodplain, yes. I'm not going to say from the site itself. I was focusing on the floodplain itself, which is, again, there's a net removal of material inside the floodplain to create these areas.
I see, yeah, so you actually may be building.
We may be we're building up, we're building up in here for the septic and stuff like that, but we're lowering the areas inside the floodplain again. And again, that's the goal of compensatory storage, is that every foot of interval the DEP wants a no net increase in fill. So that way the lateral spread of fill of the floodplain at the 90-year and the 100-year storm, it's going to be either the same or better, or smaller in terms of how high it actually gets because of compensatory storage projects like this one.
Yeah.
So just to throw a number out there, how much fill are we proposing in the floodplain?
So that's a good question. So we are proposing 2,268 square feet of 2,268 cubic feet of floodplain fill.
And how much are we restoring?
3,617 cubic feet. That's a net of over 1,000 cubic.
Yeah.
So we're not even close. And if you look at the intervals as well, in terms of the plan here, you've got 2475 to 4590, and then here to here. So the greatest floodplain benefit is below elevation 73 actually, and there's also still a benefit from 73 to 73.5. So we balanced it elevation for elevation, and also provided the best lower down, which is better because that means the floodplain may not reach 73.5 because of some I mean, it's hard. Again, it's a FEMA set calculation, but again, DEP basically the regulations say if you work with a BLSF, you have to provide compensatory storage if you want to fill, and provide interval calculations, and that's what they allow.
The regulations also, in performance standards, ask you to avoid and minimize. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So I think the key thing is to look at what 310 CMR 1057-4 talks about for performance standards, which is basically compensatory storage shall be provided for all flood storage volume that is lost as a result to proposed project within the floodplain. When the judge of the commission said loss shall increase, you're not allowed to increase, and you're not supposed to increase the lateral extent on compensatory storage. It talks about what it means in terms of the displacement and the intervals. 2 is about making sure you don't restrict flows, which I talked about. 3 is about wildlife habitat, which I mentioned before is per DEP's wildlife guidance. It's within the 10-year floodplain. So there's a presumption of no impact to wildlife based on the policy.
Right, but you also have to look at ways to avoid and minimize intrusion into the flood zone. So did we look at a smaller house? Did we look at a smaller yard? Do we look at minimizing the alteration? That's my question.
So in terms of the setback here, you've got a tight septic system that complies as close as possible to the front setback. We're 10.5 feet off the property line. There's setbacks from the septic tank to the structure as well. So now you're back to here. This is the deepest portion of the floodplain. Otherwise, you're starting to shift things left and right and starting to fit things into little peninsula islands in the floodplain, which is very awkward. From a layout, construction standpoint, and everything else. So this project does provide, I think, a very nice tight in terms of regulatory area.
Third time, did you look at reducing the house size? Did you look at reducing the impact to bordering land subject to flooding? I'll ask one more time.
So
we just talked all about the septic and setbacks.
We presented this to this commission, the previous plan with the house in the floodplain, and the building, and from our feedback, that was not something the commission wanted, so we've come back with a plan that shows the house outside the floodplain and provides the compensatory storage. And so we do believe it meets the performance standards of 310 CMR 1057-4.
Yeah, thanks for not answering that question. Thank you.
So, I don't know, looks like somebody has their hand up.
All right, I guess we can go to Mark Dibb. Go ahead.
Hi, Commissioner Mark Dibb with PMP. But I just wanted to bring up, you might remember my face. I've spent a lot of years in Norton doing permitting. I just wanted to, for the Commission's information, I just wanted to mention that one of the large buildings just up the street that has Wayfair in it was approved in a similar process to this. And you should have a treasure trove of information in the file for that building regarding a peer review for that building, a DEP superseding order of conditions approving that building, and it was permitted similarly, providing compensatory storage because there was existing upland. Just so for your benefit, there is information in that file that you could review. This has been done before in Norton. I'm not really commenting on this project. I just wanted to let the commission know that there is a bunch of information regarding this type of proposal for a similar type of site. For your benefit, you could review that project just to get some extra insight on this type of project. Again, a very thorough peer review by Horsley and Witten. DEP got involved, and you know, it's a similar project. That's all I have, and I'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
So I guess my question to the commission is, thank you, Mark, by the way, that's very appreciative of you. I guess my question that I would propose to the commission is, I mean, if that is the case, I'm not saying like, because I haven't experienced something like this, doesn't mean that it's not permittable. I want to basically put it out there. I just don't have the knowledge or expertise surrounding this kind of, I guess, way of permitting. So I would like to kind of look at the archives that we have for that project that was just referred to us for Wayfair, and make sure that, you know, it is something that DEP would not be in question of. And obviously I would ask and propose to the applicant or their consultants here this evening, is that if they'd be willing to request a continuance to the next meeting, so that way I can provide the commission, you know, enough information and support that this project is a permittable project, and it's something that we can definitely, you know, be confident in, and it wouldn't go to any sort of appeal process if that was the case. I'm just throwing it out there.
Would you be?
I'm amenable to that. I think it's a great opportunity for the commission to be educated. I know the applicant is antsy to get this thing moving along, so we will be amenable to it.
So we wouldn't be able to issue any decision or order of conditions this evening anyway.
Yep.
So in advance of that, since it's going to be a month away, I will also work on drafting up order of conditions in anticipation of us closing and issuing a potential determination that evening.
And I'd be glad to provide John with some additional NOIs that we've submitted with approved plans and orders of conditions that show similar conditions to what's here.
Anything that DEP has provided for.
Yep. I'll gladly give you the
confidence?
DEP numbers, because you'll see the DEP numbers that they reviewed the project. So yep. And I had one that even was peer reviewed by our Alan.
Okay.
So it's yeah. So glad to show you that.
All right, unless there's further comment or question, we can entertain a motion to continue this hearing until November 10th.
So moved.
Second.
I think Courtney got the second, so motion by Dan, second by Courtney. Dan and Lisa, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Mark and Courtney?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, the motion carries. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You bet. So next on the agenda is 0 John Scott Boulevard, file number 250-1187. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, hi, my name's Bill Gottwald. Do you have a plan that you can show? I'm unable to do it.
Yeah, we're doing that, and so you can just summarize the project. This is
Yeah, sure. This is a single-family house we brought in a couple weeks ago. It's on John Scott Boulevard at the corner of Harvey Street. It's a lot right in front of the water department, is the abutting neighbor in the back. And it's kind of an odd-shaped lot, as you can see. It was created whenever they put John Scott in, they cut a piece of property, cut through it, so this is what was left on our side of the property. It's about 1.8 acres, I believe, and there's probably only 9,800 square feet of upland. So we can pretty much get everything we need in the upland, except the well is into the 25-foot buffer. It's about 22 to 23 feet off the wetland flags. We looked at it a couple weeks ago. You had a couple questions. and somebody brought it up, and yes, there is about a 24-inch oak, diameter oak, pretty much, it's on the 25-foot line right where the well is, so that will have to be removed. Access to the well is just, other than that 24-inch diameter oak, it's just some saplings. I talked to a couple of well guys, they need a little sedimentation pit for their, when they pump out the wells. So it's kind of hard to see on the plan there, but he said about a 4x4 pit. We'll wrap a couple rows of silt sock around it. I suggested you can put a little stone in the bottom just for stuff to settle out. The other thing was a house size previously, so I reduced the house size to, I believe it was a 36-foot long house before, now it's down to 32. It's probably about 7 feet out over the wetlands. It's probably about 31, 32 feet off the wetlands, so that there is some room there out of the 25-foot zone. And added a couple of shallow dry wells for the roof runoff, two 500-gallon dry wells towards the other end of the property. And all the roof leaders, one in the front, one in the back, and the roof leaders will head into them. Since we talked last, my understanding is the septic system, as you see it there, has been approved by the Board of Health. It meets all the minimum setbacks for there's no other way to put it, quite honestly. If we didn't, would you require it to be 100 foot off the septic system and 100 foot off the reserve, which I'd have my opinions on that, but in any case, to get 100 foot off the future reserve area, that's why the well has to be into the couple feet into the 25-foot no-touch zone. So.
All right, are you ready for questions then?
Well, sure, we'll give it a try.
All right, commission members, questions? Did we lose Lisa? Or is she still there?
She's still here.
I don't think she can tell us.
I don't know, does any members have questions? Because I was just gonna go over some stuff.
Yeah, I think,
There's nothing you can do to avoid removing that oak tree. If it's the only larger tree on the property.
Well, no, maybe I misspoke there. It's not the only lot, it's just, for a well truck to get there's some larger trees up near the house, absolutely. But for a well truck to access that point, he can get there without taking any trees down. But when in the house area, there's some trees that will have to come down. Now, so there's a couple of bigger trees that are not in the house footprint, but quite honestly, they probably, whether they come down now or later, will have to come down because they are somewhat of some pretty good sized pines. In my memory, I think one pine is, with all the splits on it, is probably about a 48-inch diameter at the base. It splits 3 or 4 different ways. So that's kind of a danger once your house is in place, actually. But
is the well placement kind of dictated by the distance from the septic system?
yeah, it's a couple things. Distance from the septic system, and there's a Board of Health has a requirement. I think he gave us a waiver on 10 feet off the property line, but I believe that they required it 20 feet. So if I went any closer to the property line, it might make it to the 25-foot buffer, but then you close the property line, and also that tree has to come down irregardless to get the well there. And I can't fit the well anywhere else. Anywhere else would be closer into the 25-foot buffer, in my opinion.
Okay.
So what happens in the side yard once this house is built? Somebody's gonna eventually touch the no-touch zone, correct? Because that's their only piece of yard.
Well, there's some land in the back, but I mean, let's be honest, that would happen in any property. I mean, if you look at this lot, it shows it 28 feet off the street line. But I don't know how familiar, John Scott is an 80-foot layout. So it's actually 50 feet off the edge of the pavement.
So are we gonna call out for anything?
Well, that was part of the question that I was gonna propose to the commission once they revised their plan, was given the site dimensions of this lot, you know, I think it's important to advocate of the sensitivity of the nearby wetlands, because they're very limited with yard space, and unfortunately, that's just what the house allows for, or the lot allows for at this location. So, you know, obviously, there are some sensitivity areas to take into consideration. Majority of this small triangular section is almost the whole entire property. You know, besides the front that's closest to John Scott Boulevard. But I think it's important to either have a visual barrier in place, you know, along the 25-foot no-touch, you know, area, and that should span the whole entire area, even the well. And then there's another area near the septic field that has, you know, obviously some wetlands that are in close proximity as well. So, you know, my suggestion would be, yes, we are going to potentially want and request that we have some sort of visual barrier installed if the commission were to approve this project and issue an order of conditions.
You know, that's fine. In the past, John, I think maybe Norton and other towns, they'd have a post and rail fence. I think you've been out there, John, I'm not sure, but
yes.
When they built John Scott Boulevard, they pushed up. There's quite a few boulders that have been pushed onto the property. It might be who to line that 25-foot line with the boulders. I don't know if
Yeah, we might be able to intersperse some posts with placards and some boulders as well. You know, obviously, I'm not going to, you know, say that we're going to demand that you put a split rail fence here, but you know, I think it's something needs to be established along that area, and you know, I'll leave it up to you and your client to discuss what it is you guys are willing to potentially, you know, put there as part of this. But you know, one of the biggest things that we want to see before we start our pre-construction meeting is a site plan of you showing what is going to go in those areas that we've identified.
Okay.
So
we're talking, I don't mean to interrupt you, so we're talking the 25-foot zone there, and then something over where the septic area is?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. I think I can do something for that for sure.
Okay. And whatever works, you know, for you, and obviously I just need to pitch it back to the commission, make sure they're amenable to it. And, you know, then you can basically go for the project after that.
Okay. I'll put something together and
I do appreciate that you did provide us some more detail on the well, and also that you looked at, you know, retrofitting the location of the house and getting it away from the 25-foot no touch to give you kind of a little bit more breathing room for construction purposes, but also for egress once the house is built.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, things look different on paper with lines and stuff than what's actually out there.
You're telling me, I know.
No.
I see it on a day-to-day basis.
I understand. And I talked to a couple well guys, and this is what they told me they would need for their little sump pump to pump the water in, so.
Okay.
I mean, size-wise, so, but I added the little, I think to put a little stone in the bottom and would just help keep the whatever, the silt, the muck or something that comes out of the well occasionally, you know, the rock dust or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and obviously, go ahead, Lisa, sorry.
Are you intending to construct it this fall, this winter?
Well, I think he'd like to at least put the well in this winter, yes.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is, how are they gonna access that well? Because I would ask that if they're going to just do the well and not do the house, they keep the clearing to a minimum?
Yes, and you know, I was out there one day last week, I can't remember, but I was standing at the well. It's kind of like, it's all pine needle covered up on the top, but other than that, I know they show you that main tree, there are a few other trees up in the, but a truck can't fit, because I looked at it right from John Scott straight back into there. And there's some small saplings, when I say inch and a half at the most, and those would have to be, really, they could be cut down by hand. They might have to do a little grading with the machine to make sure that the truck doesn't get stuck or wait until it gets a little colder to get back in there, but,
So can they avoid the 25-foot to access?
yeah, I'm sorry,
the well?
yes, they can avoid the 25-foot, they would just come at an angle.
Okay, I think
Kind
we
of
have to-
across, maybe across kind of where the house, maybe kind of in
Yes.
the middle of the house where the
Yep.
proposed house is, yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
they-
John, I think we just need to condition that.
Yeah, we would definitely condition, obviously they'd provide us a sequence of what they
Okay.
intend to do for this. That was kind of discussed at the last meeting, like when they would do the construction aspect and how they would use storage material on site and storage stockpiles, so that was discussed. We're also gonna probably ask them as part of this is how they're gonna basically gain entry to the well and then also how they're going to button that area up afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe stake out the 25-foot for the winter.
Yeah, that would be,
Yeah.
that would be ideal, obviously,
Yeah.
before they would do this, is to physically demarcate the 25
Yeah.
foot so we can see it.
Yes,
That's, shouldn't be a problem at all.
okay. Thank you.
So, do we have any questions from anyone in the meeting about this project? And if not, this would be a continuation with the idea that we might be able to wrap it up. and
Yes, the
issue
reason
order.
why we would need to continue this is because it's gonna be more than 21 days to our next meeting.
Oh, yes, that's true.
So
Okay.
that was another thing I forgot to tell Mr. Arnold as well.
All right, so unless there are further questions, I think we can consider a motion to continue this hearing until November 10th.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion by Dan, seconded by Mark. So, well, starting with Courtney and Dan, how you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Mark.
I have to abstain because I didn't get to review the file or sign Mullins, so.
All right,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, so the motion carries, so, is there, well, it's continued until the 10th, and you can go over with John as to whether you have to attend the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll put together that, I'll get it to you, John, in enough time before the meeting. a
Okay,
week or two,
and
so we
Bill,
can-
I'll draft up a draft order of conditions as well.
All right, I appreciate that, John.
All right, so on the agenda, the next 3 hearings have been already continued, so that brings us to the Abreu Lane project, although it's pronounced, I guess, differently, Abreu,
Abreu?
or, does it have a file number now?
No,
I did not see one.
I
don't know.
checked this afternoon, I didn't have one.
Megan, can you stop sharing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we, I presume, have a representative of the project, could that be you, Mark?
Yes, good evening, Mark Dibb with PMP Engineering, representing the applicant, Maurice Legacy Real Estate, for the subdivision plan called Abreu. I'm in the same boat as you with pronouncing it Lane in Norton. We filed a notice of intent for the proposed work related to the subdivision roadway, which includes the required drainage system to support new road. With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
You should have sharing capabilities.
Okay. The project tonight is a parcel off of Elm Street to the west of Elm Street. It is a single-family home parcel that consists of 7.42 acres. The resource areas on the site. So Elm Street is on this side of the page, the property is to the west. The resource areas on the site consist of a BVW, the northeast kind of area of the property. On our plans, the green represents the BVW, red represents a no-touch zone, and the cyan represents 100-foot buffer. So there's the buffer zone and BVW. There is also a wetland across the street that creates a buffer zone on the parcel as well. And then the remaining 7-acre lot has a wetland off to the west side of the property. And again, the same buffer zones are shown. The existing lot does have a single-family home, a paved driveway, and some paths throughout, a shed, some fences, some stone walls. I'm going to go to the proposed roadway layout. So the proposal is to subdivide, this is part of which will eventually be a subdivision application with the planning board, to subdivide the 7-acre parcels into 3 parcels that will have the minimum, at least the minimum lot area of 80,000 square feet, and the appropriate zoning, shape factors, and zoning related criteria will be met for the lots. A new roadway is proposed. That roadway will have some drainage components to it. There is a bioretention area sited in this part of the project, which, as you can see, goes within about the 100 to 80-foot buffer to the wetland across the street. There will be some work to demo the existing house in this area, which will be within the jurisdictional buffer to the wetland as well. And then there's the cul-de-sac, which is in the back of the lot. There's additional drainage for the remainder of the roadway, as well as I will show you a build-out plan, which is a conceptual plan that the drainage has been based on to size the drainage structures and drainage components. This is all part of a plan set. This again is the drainage areas. For the subdivision, we're required to provide a plan and profile. And then this is a conceptual build-out layout of the project. It shows the 3 duplex houses being proposed. As you can see, this lot will have some work within the buffer zone to the BVW. However, the entirety of lots 2 and 3 are outside jurisdictional areas. So we've provided the drainage that is designed, includes the impervious areas and different site characteristics, grass, lawn, woods, that would go along with this proposed development. The remaining sheets in the set and details are the cross-section and standard subdivision type details, as well as the straw wattle erosion control, temporary erosion control measures that will take place out in Elm Street, silt sacks at the existing catch basins in Elm Street, and items such as that are in the construction details. We do believe it meets DEP regulations, and believe it is worthy of a notice of intent. However, that is my presentation, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does this
Mark,
need?
could we see the first diagram that you put up, the one that had the larger picture of both Elm Street and Reservoir Street?
Does this require
Yes.
stormwater?
Well, that's one of the questions I wanted to ask, so it's at your discretion.
Maybe if you could enlarge that a little bit.
Still not seeing anything.
So just to kind of give everyone an idea of what address this is at,
76?
76 Elm Street.
Okay.
But it abuts multiple properties on Reservoir Street, is that what you're asking?
That is correct. The back portion or the rear portion of the property does abut reservoir parcels.
Now,
Did it come through there yet, Dan, for you?
well, what I was going to say is that I believe not far from there, we had some people who were complaining that the water was too high, somewhere on Reservoir Street. Now, maybe it was a little bit south of where that, of the locus there. But,
And I think it was across the street where the BBW is connected by a swale or a pipe under Elm Street. It was the house across the street, Mark. That was during the ANRAD process, Dan, right?
I'm sorry?
That was during the ANRAD process.
Not sure, don't remember.
It was.
Yeah, that,
It
one of
was.
the butters mentioned it.
All right.
So Mark, maybe you want to address any runoff. Actually, if you put that plan up, because I'm going to ask you a question about that in a minute, the grading plan. Maybe you want to address some of the stormwater, how it's going to be captured. I think her concern was that, I think she was across the street and it was, she has a BBW, I think, in her front yard. I think that's part of the problem, on her side yard. That's why it's wet. That's why it's wet.
So, there is a number of test pits that were done. They are in the detail area of the plans. Up into the high point right here of the roadway.
You gotta show your screen. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. It
I got
happens.
most of the way there. I just didn't hit the share button. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So, from the high point of the road, this segment of the road is draining, sheet flowing off into a bioretention area that will manage that runoff for the property, for that roadway. And again, there's test pits, groundwater is not far below the bottom of these things, but it does meet stormwater management standards. It's at least, these are at least 2 feet to groundwater, and the remaining area just gets sent to the rear of the site, down here. Other than managing it through a infiltrating bioretention area, that is essentially the extent of the runoff or stormwater management control for that first portion of the street.
So,
Is that what you're referring to, Dan?
Sorry?
Is that what you were referring to?
I think well, actually, I was, maybe the houses I thought of weren't quite that close upon further reflection. The ones on Reservoir Street.
but with regard to Mark, this drainage direction reflects the current pattern? On the site?
Currently, the existing site does drain down the existing driveway with no stormwater management. You can see that the 106 contour, 104, 103, 102. So the existing single-family home driveway would drain out into Elm. So the stormwater management report we provided does show a reduction of runoff to what I think we call drain point 1, which is out at this property limit.
And you have something illustrated running alongside the driveway that is kind of checkered or whatever. Is that intended? Well, no, yeah, that where you're, what does that denote?
That is a sidewalk.
Oh, okay. So there's no structure that would accept the sheet runoff from the driveway. It just goes down into, is it a catch basin structure or?
There is a gravel strip right here. It's signified from here down to here that does some filtering before it hits the bioretention area. But you know, and before that, there's a Cape Cod berm or curbing. I don't have off the top of my head. But so you know, it'll channelize and then sheet flow off once it gets down to the basin.
So is there a culvert underneath Elm Street in that region, or is it would be?
Yeah, so there's some existing culverts and catch basins. Over here, that sounds like potentially the person that was commenting earlier might, I'm not familiar with it, but maybe this wetland here might have some water issues associated, and I don't know if these catch basins ever flood in the road, but our goal is to not let any runoff out into the road. So technically, I think we should be helping that situation regarding runoff by reducing runoff that would otherwise go to Elm Street off the existing driveway.
So the bioretention area, where does that discharge to?
That is handling the runoff to, I'd like to get both this plan and my detailed plans up. I don't think that's gonna happen, but that is, I believe there's a level spreader that manages runoff. There will be a certain point where it will overflow the level spreader into a riprap area and will go on its way, but it'll be a reduced rate from which previously ran down the driveway. And that's all documented in the stormwater management report.
So it basically goes along Elm Street for a short distance into a couple of catch basins there? Or
correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes, after it's been treated and discharged at a lesser rate as required by the stormwater management standards.
All right, anybody else have any questions about that?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So, John Thomas, are we having this peer reviewed?
Well, that was the question that I was gonna ask the commission, because this obviously doesn't trigger the state's requirement for a stormwater management report, but it does trigger the need for a local review. So I guess that would, what I propose to the commission is, would they feel more comfortable, having this peer reviewed by an outside source engineer consultant to ensure that the stormwater is compliant with our local bylaw proceedings and regs?
I would.
Okay.
But I'm just one vote. Okay, next question. So there's no catch basins in the street? It's just gonna be sheet flow to the bioretention for that portion of it?
Correct.
Okay, that's what's concerning to me, in that, how much of it's really gonna be caught by the bioretention? That's why I really want a peer review on this. So across the street, you're showing straw wattles or something over there. What is that proposed erosion control check dam for?
That is just a extra measure. There will be, what this right here, this is a temporary construction entrance. And both the existing and proposed grades have runoff going towards the street. So we're proposing 2 extra off-site erosion control methods. The silt sacks in the existing catch basin, as well as protecting this wetland with an extra.
Here's the problem I have with that. You're actually letting it go and you're gonna capture it at the end. You need to keep it on your property. So whether you use that bioretention during construction is what I would suggest. And diverting it into there and then reestablishing that with the correct soil for infiltration after the fact. You can't just let sheet flow off your site, especially construction term, go across the street and treat it across the street. Can't do that. It's, you have to put source reduction on your own property. So.
Okay.
You need to take that proposed check dam off, because what you're saying is we're just gonna let it fly across the street, and that's not acceptable. So I'd like you to redo the plan, take that off, come up with, as part of your erosion and sediment control plan, a temporary, trap in that location to manage runoff during construction. And then can we look at the existing house and the duplex grading that's going to that, the proposed, sorry.
Okay, hang on.
So the one question I have here is, those look like extraordinary, I mean, I don't know the scale of this, but those look like rather long driveways. I'm just wondering why the house is that far back, and if it can be closer to the street or angled to minimize the intrusion into the 100-foot buffer.
We can take a look at that. There's no particular magic to, other than whatever the front yard setback is, which I could, it's probably on the front page, could confirm the front yard setback, and
Yeah,
then.
they just look long compared to the other ones, and I'm like, well, that's the most important one, but.
Yeah, they look about the same, but anyways, you know, if there's room, given front yard setbacks, citing, we obviously want the septic system up there or somewhere outside the 100-foot buffer.
Yep.
I can give you that answer.
Okay, or maybe just reorient it, just, you know, to the, I don't know what direction that is, but northwest up the page, doesn't have to be 90 degrees to the street, right? To try to maybe just give it a little more room back there.
Okay.
Thank you. And there's no floods in the ones. Remember, okay?
Other questions from members of the commission? And questions from anyone in the meeting?
Yeah, I have a question.
All right, so we have a question from a member here, from an attendee here in the room. So just identify yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Sunny. Yeah, I live in the 76.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm wondering, the width of the apple land is enough for you to make the project?
The road frontage?
No, the width of the apple land.
He's talking about the width of the Abreu Lane, whether it's big enough.
Big enough?
That's a subdivision standard, right?
Right.
Planning board?
Right,
Subdivision standard?
And also, there are two houses there. I think they are duplex, 73 and 75. I'm not 72 and 74. Abutting the apple land, and between there's a green area, and the tree, okay? I think that they should have some certain setback by the zoning. And also,
All your questions are zoning related as of right now?
yeah,
So we don't have jurisdiction, the commission doesn't have jurisdiction over zoning and zoning bylaws. So any of those questions that you have regarding this project would be positioned to the planning board. Now, Mark, have you guys submitted anything to the planning board as of yet?
I do not believe planning board submittal has happened yet.
Okay,
There are other people from PMP that could confirm that, but I do not believe so.
okay, so for instance, what I'm asking for is that this gentleman here that's asking questions regarding zoning and planning board questions, you should probably address those at the meeting when you submit an application. So you would get another notification about a planning board meeting, and you would want to address your questions and concerns at that meeting.
I think they should know, the zoning, they should know that.
Yeah, well, they should, yes. Any applicant that's coming in front should read the zoning bylaw and make sure that everything works in accordance with the zoning rules.
Also, one more question. How about the existing deers, animal, I don't know, they are.
So concerns with common wildlife,
Yeah,
we don't have any sort of, I guess, jurisdiction over common wildlife with projects. If it was within any sort of sensitive natural heritage habitat, then it would be a concern of ours. But this project is not in those areas.
okay.
And just one comment about that is, fortunately, the clearing is relatively limited on this site. So there still will be a fair amount of tree native growth that kind of wildlife can occupy. And they'll use the yards as well, as they always do. Any other questions from anyone in the meeting? And as I recall, we felt strongly that this needs to be peer reviewed, at least.
I think Lisa made the recommendation that we have this peer reviewed. You know, I can definitely get a quote for a peer review and send that over to you, Mark, if you and your client want to review that and make sure you're comfortable with the peer review. Also, it's my understanding that this project does not have a DEP number yet. So we'd probably be leaning towards a continuance until, you know, our November 10th meeting. But if we can make preparations on getting that peer review all slated out and, you know, do that offline, I think maybe we could potentially get in a good position, and I could potentially draft up a draft order, provided that the peer review comes out and there's no outstanding issues. Or any sort of minor adjustments you can handle within the month span that we have from now until then.
Yeah, you know, if the commission desires a peer review, then we'll go through the process.
All right.
And we can, I'll therefore request a continuance to that hearing date in November.
All right, so unless there are further questions or comments, I think we can consider a motion for continuation of this hearing until November 10th.
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Courtney, Dan, and Lisa. How do you vote?
We just lost Dan.
Okay, well, then Mark, and I'll throw in an aye, and Courtney also.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, even without Dan. So thank you, guys. And we're now at the point for reviewing orders of conditions, and we can consider a vote on the need for peer review on this project.
I don't think we can, we need Dan back.
Oh. Okay. Well, we can consider these, we can't review these.
We can review them, but I don't think Lisa can vote on this one,
No.
so we need Dan back.
Oh, on 0L.
Yes.
I have to recuse
Yeah,
or abstain.
abstain, yeah.
Oh, 0L?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we got 3, all right.
You can run upstairs and try to call them.
Um, So we can't call him directly? or-
I just don't have
You
his
need to
number.
get Dan a my
Oh,
device.
I have,
Oh, you have Dan's number?
I think so.
Give him a hotspot.
I think he should just come in person to these meetings. He lives like 2 minutes away. He walks here all the time. And I offered to drive him home after these meetings because it's dark.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, Dan.
Yeah, my screen blanked,
Does this count?
so.
Yeah, you can, so Dan, we're gonna be reviewing the orders of conditions for 0 Elm Street, and you may recall that is the project on the old, not Eureka, what was the?
Reed and Barton.
Which one?
Reed and Barton.
Reed and Barton, yes. The old Reed and Barton is the parking lot across the street. So, this is a kind of a standard, orders of conditions. There's really no, other than the, there's no, unique, conditions, and the findings are standard. So, anyone else have any questions or comments about the draft order of conditions?
He's on,
Oh, you're able to hear us again, Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, not a problem.
I will have to come to the next meeting in person.
Or upgrade whatever the problem. You have a Verizon, yes?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if we can upgrade that problem. I have the same problem. So, any questions about the draft orders? If not, we can consider a motion to accept the draft as submitted.
So moved?
Seconded.
We have a motion by Mark, seconded by Courtney. Lisa and Dan, how do you vote?
Abstain.
And Courtney and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, so that's 4 ayes, 1 abstention. And we should probably vote on requesting peer review for the Abreu Lane project, which does not yet have a file number.
I'll make a motion to require us peer review of the stormwater management report and design for Abreu Lane, map 17, parcel 34-02.
Second.
So we have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Dan. And Lisa and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Courtney and Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye, motion carries.
Aye.
I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. Unless there are further items, we can consider a motion to adjourn.
Roll call vote for adjournment, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark. Lisa and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dan.
And frozen.
Dan looks
Hi,
mesmerized.
Dan.
Turn to stone. What did you look at, Dan?
I think that's a yes for Dan. That shirt screams yes.
Okay.
We should all chip in and get Dan a MiFi for his office.
I have an extra one. We just bought 2 extra. We didn't need it.
Okay, and so Courtney and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. I might need one of those. What are those devices?
It's an Xfinity booster. When I moved upstairs to this, I reclaimed 2 extra bedrooms, so my daughter moved out. So it took a while because the boost, we had Xfinity over, blah, blah, blah. Well, it wasn't anything to do with that. And we're too lazy to bring them back. So I have 2 Xfinity boosters.
I have an Eero mesh system, so I now have Wi-Fi in my barn, which is very important.
Okay, so Dan, how do you vote?
Yep, still frozen.
Aye, so Dan is the deciding vote on the adjournment.
All right.
So.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Nice.
Good night.